Are we on? Are we here?
We're here. Well, you're here. I don't know if I'm here.
Yeah, you're here, although you sound very crackly. I don't know if that's my headphones or if it's your microphone.
Ooh,
Hang on a second. Why don't we ask the folk who's on the call already if they hear you crackly as well?
am I
So,
crackly?
hello, people who are there. Could you just tell us, is Yevgeny crackly to you, or is it just me and I've got problems with my headphones? Somebody tell us. Whilst you're
Yes.
doing that, I will. Oh, yeah, you sound really weird. You sound a little bit. You know what? Have you heard of the Daleks? You know who the
Uh,
Daleks are from Doctor Who?
I've never seen a single episode of Doctor Who, I must confess.
Ah, don't confess that. Oh, yes, I'm not the only person that hears you crackling, Yevgeny. You have an audio issue. Thank God it's not just me.
Okay, and how about now? Not
See,
bad.
that sounds like you're literally climbing down my eardrums.
Right. What about
Right,
now?
that's much better.
Okay, there
Okay.
we go.
Right. So, oh, we've got quite a few people who are with us already. So, should we kick off? Do you want to kind of get going
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the
yeah,
with
yeah,
the
yeah. Cool.
razzmatazz?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Cool. All right, folks. Well, now that we've fixed our audio issues, let's talk about what we're here to do. So, um, this is our weekly Amazon interview free coaching session, during which we answer all questions about behavioral interviews at Amazon. About us, I'm sure you guys know who we are, but for those of you who don't, so we've got amazing Gigi, we've got myself, and we are Day One Careers. We both used to work at Amazon. We were senior leaders, senior marketers, we were interviewers, hiring managers, and on top of all of that, Gigi was also a bar raiser, which means that she's absolutely amazing, nice, and lovely. Um, at some point in time, both of us realized that there's plenty of candidates out there who have amazing functional CVs, great functional profile experience, and yet they tend to bomb behavioral interviews because the skills aren't there, because they don't understand the leadership principles as much as Amazon does. And so, in both ways, and Gigi in her own way, me in my own way, we started trying to help candidates to improve their Amazon behavioral interviewing skills. And we both saw that it actually works. If you coach folks how to improve their Amazon interviewing skills, magic happens. So Gigi created her own business, which was Amazon Interview Wiz Academy. I created Day One Careers, and then there was one candidate who worked with both of us, and she said, "Hey, you guys need to meet because you tend to be the most credible folks in this business." So we met, and then we decided to merge our businesses, and there you go. We've merged under Day One Careers. So you have us here working for you guys, and we run these shows. We offer plenty of free and paid Amazon interview prep content. And so this show is for you guys. We're going to be here until 6 p.m. GMT, answering all your questions about
BST, Yevgeny. It's
it's
summertime.
BST. Yes, BST.
BST.
We're in BST. We're in BST. And we're going to be answering all your questions about behavioral interviews at Amazon. And I think housekeeping, right? Okay, so housekeeping. Right, folks. So, because we were in marketing when we worked at Amazon, unless your question is unless you're interviewing for a marketing role, unfortunately, we won't be able to help you with anything that has to do with functional assessments. So, if you're interviewing for, let's say, a data center construction manager next week, and you want some tips about the functional part of that interview, unfortunately, we won't be able to help you. That being said, with the behavioral part, we will help you because it is pretty uniform across Amazon. And if you have a very sort of general, maybe beginner type question, maybe you're just starting your journey, your prep journey for Amazon, and something along the lines of, "Hey, I've got an interview next week. Do you have any tips?" In which case, we will have to. I think we'll have to refer you to our YouTube channel because we've got a ton of general amazing content in there. So just keep it specific, keep it specific to your situation, and hopefully we will be able to answer. And if you have a long question, just split it into multiple parts, because what you will quickly see is that the chat box where you post the question it will kind of constrain. It has a limit. I think it's got some character limits. So split it like a Twitter thread into 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to make sure to pick it up. Whew, have I covered everything else, or is there something left to cover?
Yeah, just to be super specific, if you want to ask a question, just on the right hand side, you can see that little box that Yevgeny was referring to. So you can ask your question in there. If you are on LinkedIn, you need to ask your question in the comments underneath the stream. I can't see anyone that's showing up as on LinkedIn yet, but who knows? So if you are on LinkedIn, that's where you do it. So what we need now, folks, is you just to ask some questions. So don't be shy. Just bang down your question. Obviously, bear in mind what Yevgeny said a minute ago, but just give it a go. There are no stupid questions, and we will get to answering them. As Yevgeny said, we've got 60 minutes, so we're here for as long as you need us. But of course, we need material to work with. So please do bang down some questions, and we'll see where we get to. Before we start, however, folks, can you all please say a big hello to Gigi's mum, who I can see has appeared on the stream? Mum, have you not got anything better to do?
Hello, Gigi's mom. I've never met Gigi's mom, actually.
So Gigi's mum is here, everybody. So be nice, say nice things about me. Yes, Mum, you're a lunatic. I bet you're sitting there knitting away whilst you're watching this. My mum loves to knit. I don't have, she bought, do you know what? My mum loves to knit. She did this gorgeous jumper for me a few months ago. I wore it on the stream, and then someone told me that I look like their granny. So I've never worn it since, but I love it, mum. It was fabulous. I love it very much. I'll get you a new pattern soon because I want like a bat wing one. Anyway, folks, you're really popular now, mum. It's so funny.
We should do a video with Gigi's mom.
Yeah, no, maybe not. All right, folks. So let's move on. Well, my mum has disrupted this. My mum disrupts everything. Oh, she's fabulous, my mummy. Love her. Let's go for some questions, and then we'll see how we get on. So bang away questions. Other than you, mum, you don't need to ask any questions. I'll call you later, though. I was thinking about calling you earlier. All right, so let's go. Should we start with Sid's question? And what we'll aim to do is say hello to people as we work through as well. So let's just pick up on Sid's question here. All right, so shall I just take this one, Yevgeny?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so what are the tips for L7 prep or interview to keep in mind? Okay, so I guess the biggest tip that I can give you for an L7 is to do your very best to articulate the complexity of the challenges that you face. Now, you need to balance that with um, narrating your story in a clear and concise fashion, because you don't want your narrative to be complex and impossible for your interviewer to follow. But what you're trying to do is turn what is a complex situation into a clear and concise narrative. But the reason why I say you really need to demonstrate the complexity of the situation you found yourself in is you're trying to prove that you're bar raising at L7. And L7 is a pretty senior role as far as Amazon is concerned, bearing in mind there are 12 levels, but actually there are 11 levels because there is no level 9. I won't bore you with why they've chosen not to have level 9. So if you're at level 7, you're actually not that far away from Andy Jassy, which makes you at a relatively senior level. So one of the main reasons that I, as a bar raiser, would be not inclined for people else at L7 level was because they simply did not seem to demonstrate that they could cope with the type of complexity that I would expect them to be facing in their role at Amazon. So, what I would say, Sid, is don't worry too much about length at this point. What you really want to do is think about all of the threads associated with the particular situation that you found yourself in, any challenges that you faced along the way, any problems that you faced along the way, any things that you needed to solve that came along that were unexpected. Think about all of those complexities associated with the situation that you were facing, and then find a way to narrate them in a concise and clear fashion, because what you're trying to essentially prove is that you can deal with big complex problems or situations, because that's what you're going to find yourself in at L7. The other thing that I would say is scope. So, just to be clear, complexity is about the complicated nature of one individual particular situation. Scope is about presenting yourself having dealt with multiple different types of situations over the course of your interview. So, what you really want to do, and let's just use marketing manager as an example, just because it's easier. If all of your stories as an L7 marketer, and it wouldn't be a marketing manager, it would be a senior manager marketing. Um, if all of these situations you described to me as a senior manager in marketing were just focused on, I don't know, storefront merchandising, then you're just not demonstrating the scope of the role that I'm probably hiring you for, because I'm probably hiring you for a role that is outdoor storefront merchandising, search engine optimization, PPC, email, direct mail, blah, blah, blah. If all you ever spoke to me about was events, then you're not going to look like you've got the scope. So when you're building your story bank, think about not only making sure each individual story is complex, but also that each individual story kind of touches on a different aspect of the type of work that you would expect to face in that particular role. Anything to add, Yevgeny?
Nope, marvelously handled. Okay. Okay, so the next one here is, I think it's a quick one. Are all roles in Amazon do all interviews for all roles at Amazon involve behavioral interview questions? I think the answer is yes. I'm not sure about L3s. Do they interview them on behavioral interview questions on leadership principles? L3, do you know?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think
If
so
you're kind
either.
of do warehouse kind of fulfillment center type stuff, you shouldn't face it. It's once you get to L4 and you're in kind of
Yeah.
a leadership area manager type role in the fulfillment centers, that's when you're going to face behavioral interviews.
Okay. Should I take another one? This one was a quick one.
By all means.
Okay, so I think this is a multi-part one from Anthony. So I finished my loop last week Monday, and on Friday the recruiter sent me an email asking about the interviews and if I'm still interested in the role. Interesting. There's another part. Just wondering if she should already have seen the recommend from the interviewers. She said she would get back to me this week. I'm waiting nervously. I guess I'm just reconstructing here. So sounds like you've gone through the loop. Then your recruiter in 4 or 5 days sent you an email saying, "Do you still want to do the role?" And you're trying to think how to interpret this. I'd be in your camp as well. I'd be quite puzzled as to how to interpret this because it sounds a little strange, unless unless there are some other details that just didn't kind of come through the questions, the text that you posted. But if that's exactly how it went, my assumption is that, like, unless the vote is inclined to offer you the role, it would be quite strange for the recruiter to call you and ask you, do you still want to do the role? But what I'm almost like suspecting, I guess my question is, why would the recruiter have that question? Do you have any bright ideas, Gigi?
Yeah, I think this is just a little bit of a nicety. So this is probably a follow-up from the recruiter saying, "Hi, how did it go? Hope it went well. Just want to make sure after you've met everybody, you still keen on the role." I think to me, I don't think you should read too much into it. I think they're just kind of checking, has anyone on the actual loop put you off the role? I imagine it's just like a something that they said that didn't really mean too much. So I would just not overread into it at all. Your email back, I would suggest, should be something along the lines of, "Loved it, really enjoyed meeting everyone, super excited about the role, can't wait to hear the outcome." That's it.
Cool. All right. Do you want to take the next one?
Okay, this seems to be a six-parter. This is exciting. All right, this is from
Joe is coming
Joe.
back.
Joe. Joe from Buckinghamshire, which is awesome. I think, Joe, you're definitely a returner, aren't you? Because I think I remember
She is.
saying
She
it.
is.
Saying it. I live in Hertfordshire, right next door. So Joe and I are neighbours. Everybody. So are we doing well? I think we're doing well, Yevgeny. I could do with a bit more sunshine. Bearing in mind it's meant to be the summer. It's been lashing rain. Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay. I missed something. All right. In the last one. So let's keep going. You want to express okay, you're more than welcome. Okay, you discovered our resources in Maeve, and in May, Maeve is my daughter's name. Maeve is my daughter. May is the month. Okay, Evgeny provided. You got some incredibly useful feedback. That's nice to know that you were able to apply in your second interview. Okay. Oh, this is a fulsome message. Ah, you got a job. It took me a while to get all the way through that. Joe got offered a job.
A fantastic job.
Woo,
Amazing.
Joe, that's awesome. Yevgeny, it sounds like your feedback paid off for Joe. So, Joe, are you going to be working up in Principal Place? You're going to be heading up to London from the old Buckinghamshire. Which shouldn't be too bad a journey. I guess it depends where you live in Buckinghamshire, doesn't it? You can either get the train, the Thames Link, or I think overground from Chorleywood or something like that. So, Joe, we wish you the very, very best of luck. If you do find yourself in Principal Place, say hello to it for us. Uh, we miss it. I don't miss the journey.
Me neither. Me neither.
I miss the journey at all.
Commuting from Southwest London to East, not a great journey.
Yeah. But you know what? I don't think it matters wherever you are around London. Getting into London is never going to be fun. You literally need to be living in like that apartment building that's right on the like literally right next door to Principal Place for it to be a not unpleasant journey. Which, by the way, Joe, is hilarious because there's a giant apartment block right in front of Principal Place, and you can literally see into people's kitchens and bedrooms and all sorts of. So there's some fantastic voyeurism opportunities if you're into that.
Yes,
Sorry, mum. Sorry, mum. This is not. We're not going in that direction, mum. I
as well as
promise.
the great opportunity to consider £1 million plus real estate. But hey ho.
I know it's crazy. Right. Okay. Let's move on. Well done, Joe. We are delighted for you. Let me pick one because that really wasn't a question. Okay. So, Schwicks. Schwicks. I have
I
a
think
phone
this is the
interview.
winner of the nickname for today.
I mean, without meaning to be disrespectful to anybody else, but this is clearly the winner of the old facial hair as well, Schwicks. I'm a big moustache fan, Schwicks. My husband's got a handlebar moustache, and you look very cool. Okay, so I have a phone interview for a senior product manager. You've prepared stories for all principles, but you're struggling with these ones and can't find a story to fit them. Frugality and earn trust. Okay, I'm hoping there's a second part to this. Schwicks, there is. Some of my strong stories can be tweaked to represent more than one principle. So, can I use this method or should I use different stories for each question? Okay, so Schwicks, I love that. So fun to say. So juvenile. Right. So, what I would say first is Schwicks, don't worry about frugality. It's so rare that anybody gets tested on frugality. The only people really that I've ever seen get tested on frugality tends to be people in finance, which is probably not too much of a surprise, or people in procurement, or anyone who is in charge of a capex budget. So if you think about, say, marketers who have got budget to buy media, etc., and even then, actually, they're quite rarely tested on frugality. So in the main, I would say don't worry too much about frugality. Earn trust is different. Almost everybody gets tested on earn trust because it's obviously a really important measure for how you work with people around you. So to your question, can you rework an existing story and make it lean into earn trust? Yes, of course you can. Now, our guidance is always going to be try to avoid reworking the same story multiple times if you possibly can. The reason we say that is Amazon is looking for people who are consistent high performers. So kind of the golden candidate, if you like, is one that never has to repeat any situations because they've just been so consistently strong that they are able to just come up with fresh stories every time. However, that's not really realistic, and there's not a lot of candidates that can show themselves to be the golden candidate. So most candidates will have to do some amount of reworking for a couple of situations. So Schwicks, I would definitely say yes, try and find a story that is has aspects that seem very different to earn trust. So let me just quickly explain what I mean by that. So, I'm sure you'll all have noticed that you can kind of bunch up a number of the leadership principles into themes. So, if you think about invent and simplify and think big, they're both kind of thematically about ideas and coming up with new ways of thinking. If you think about customer obsession and earn trust, they're about relationships and people. If you think about anyway, I can't, not going to do anymore, right? But you see what I mean. You can bunch them up. So if you're going to rework a story, Schwix, about and you want to make it an earned trust story, don't use a customer obsession story because it's going to sound way too similar. Try and rework your deliver results story or your dive deep story or your ownership story and spin that towards earned trust, because then you're going to, if you are focused on demonstrating the behaviors of deliver results are very different to the behaviors of earned trust. And therefore, when you tell the same situation twice, it will actually come out sounding like it's quite a different story, even though its initial premise in terms of its situation is the same. I think that's it. Anything to add, Yevgeny?
No, no, nothing to add.
Cool.
Right. This is the next one. So I can't quite figure out whether the avatar is that of Shah Rukh Khan or Toto Wolff, the manager of AMG Formula One Mercedes team. Could
I
be
can't
either.
help you. Funnily enough, I can't help you there with answering that one.
I think it's Shah Rukh Khan, I think, but please correct me, SRK Poems. Anyway, so the question is, can you tell me about a time when you got a critical feedback from your manager? How to choose the right feedback for the answer, and does a higher criticality level impact the assessment? I'm going to assume this is some interesting version of an earned trust.
Yeah,
Um,
it's an earned trust question. It's kind of usually phrased, tell me about a time where you received
a
a
colleague.
piece of critical feedback, and then some people choose to lump from your manager on the end of it. Other people might choose to lump from a colleague or a peer
Yeah,
on the end of it. But yes, it is an earned trust question.
yeah. I personally don't like the version with the manager because it implies an authority relationship, and in most cases, people will try to understand what their manager wants from them. But anyway, so anyway, so let's address this question. So does so if you have two stories, one of which has someone kind of senior giving you a choice feedback, one of them doesn't. From where I come from, so generally speaking, the seniority of people who you deal with in the workplace is important because it shows that you can hold your ground with folks who have a lot of authority in the room. That being said, the way that this is worded for me, like if I was on the receiving end, if I was interviewing you, and for some reason I wanted to ask you this question, actually for me, the more senior the person who gives you the feedback doesn't necessarily demonstrate to me that you can build trust. Why? Because for the absolute majority of us, if someone very senior comes to you and gives you critical feedback, you're just going to do this and you're going to address every single point of their feedback. Why? Because they rate your performance. Your job is entrusted, your viability at work is entrusted to their judgment. So for me, that seniority isn't really a factor here. And if anything, and that's why what I'm saying is when a colleague that doesn't have that authority relationship with you comes and gives you choice feedback, now this becomes more interesting because more people in this situation would be tempted to just brush that feedback under the carpet and do nothing with it. And this is where the whole bar raising thing plays in. So I think if I were you, I would focus on other things. I would focus on not so much the seniority of the person who gave you the feedback, but how you were addressing the feedback, how you were trying to understand what's driving that feedback, how you were showing respect to the individual who came and gave you that feedback. how you were and when I say respect, not to the actual personality of the person, but to the ideas of someone who is your colleague and who is entitled for you to show the same level of consideration to their ideas, as critical as they might be of something that you have proposed, as you would show to your own ideas. So that's where I would focus your story. But I don't know if Gigi has any other perspective on this.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right, Yevgeny, and that's why the actual question itself in the Amazon interview question bank doesn't specify it being from your manager. It just literally says something online. So give me an example of a tough or critical piece of feedback that you received. So what I would say is, if someone asks you that question and they lump your manager on the end of it, and you would like to share a story that is not specifically about your manager, ask them, is it okay for me to share a story where the person's feedback actually isn't my direct manager? If they're any good at their job as an interviewer, they should say yes, because the point is not exactly as Yevgeny said. The point is not to understand how you interact with your manager. The point is to understand how you deal with criticism and feedback, agnostic of who gave it to you. Okay, shall I pick up that next one?
Please.
So, right, I'm not sure if this is Harish or Harish, so I apologize profusely if I mispronounce your name. You did not see the level of your role on your job description. It's a program manager role. What level would that be? Usually it would be an L5. If it literally just says program manager on the job description, normally, if they are following the Amazon standard nomenclature, that would be an L5. Obviously, I can't guarantee that because, hey, sometimes people just do random things with job descriptions. But my working assumption, if I looked at that JD, would be that it would be a L5. So that only took seconds, Yevgeny, so I'll pick the next one. Oh, and we covered that one off already a minute ago, didn't we? So let me keep going. There's my mom. Oh, okay. Joshua Walker Cherry. Gosh, that's such a cool name. Walker Cherry.
Love it.
Hmm. Um, OMG. I was just watching your videos and saw you were live. Oh, there you go. That's destiny calling you, Joshua. Destiny. You've got an interview today at 4 Eastern time, so this is amazing. Right, everybody, I know we all just said hello to my mom. So now let's all turn our minds to sending all of our best positive mojo to Joshua for 4 p.m. Eastern time. I'm manifesting for you, Joshua. I know Yevgeny is also manifesting for
I'm
you.
twisting my fingers right now.
Right, there we go. What, you're twisting your fingers. What does that mean? Is that like a Russian thing?
Crossing
Oh,
fingers.
crossing your fingers. All right, okay, fair enough. I was like, twisting your fingers rather than crossing your fingers. There's something. There's something in that, Yevgeny. All right. So, oh, Joe's going from High Wycombe to Principal Place. Ah, I like High Wycombe. There's an amazing theatre there. I went to see Six at the theatre in High Wycombe. Joe,
High
have you been
Wycombe
to
is
see that?
really cool, and I agree, Joe. It's worth it, and that's exactly how it was for me. Bad commute, but it was so worth it. Well done, you.
Awesome. Right. So, right, let's pick this one for Ashok. You've gone through the recruitment process of a role at Amazon. 4 days after completing the final interview, I got a mail telling you're not selected. What other reasons could be? Well, it could be anything, Ashok. It's like, how long have you got? Um, so I don't know. Unless we were actually there in the debrief, it's impossible for us to make assumptions. Um, Generally, and I definitely have a video about this on the YouTube channel. So, although I cannot state that these are the reasons that you failed, I can tell you the most common reasons, although it's not empirical data, the most common reason I experienced when people did not pass their interview. So, the first was, and we rewind to the beginning of this session, actually, scope and complexity. More often than not, as a bar raiser, when I was not inclined for a candidate, scope and complexity were the biggest issues, really. So they haven't demonstrated that they can deal with the complexity of the role, and they certainly haven't demonstrated that they have the experience of the scope of the role. So that was the first one. The second one is really about kind of functional skills, although it might have appeared in the early rounds that you had all of the functional skills that they're looking for. Once they worked through the actual interview full loop itself, and have gone and dissected that, it may well be that there's just a hole in your functional skill set that they are just not willing to wait for you to fill, and they want a candidate who can just land running. The third reason that people fail is they just haven't actually talked about the behaviors side of things. So many candidates I found in my time were much more focused about talking about what they did, like literally running you through a project end to end and what they did in the project, rather than talking about how they went about doing what they were doing. So they answer a question of, I don't know, tell me about a time when you, I'm going to think one, tell me about a time when a customer wanted one thing, but you felt they needed something else. And the candidate would tell a story where, okay, yes, the customer wanted one thing and they felt they needed something else, but that was just a brief reference in passing. And then they go on to tell you about the entire project end to end. When what you're really trying to understand with that question is their customer obsession. So you're so invested in this customer that even though they want something different, you're going to really work hard to coach them and help them understand why it is that what they want is not the right thing. And you'll listen to their feedback and you'll give them feedback and you'll go above and beyond what they're looking for. And you will, I know, commit your personal time to it, blah, blah, blah. Those are the things that they would be looking for in your answer. But lots of people literally just pick a scenario where the customer wanted one thing and they thought they needed something else, and then actually never mention that part of the story again and just run you through the entire project. So, in my experience, those are the three big reasons why candidates fail: scope and complexity, lack of functional fit. I won't say perfection, but functional fit. And then the third one, they don't actually talk about the leadership principles. And just to say, we are going to have an amazing freebie at the end of this session, Ashok. And it's actually a freebie all about customer obsession. And it will help you understand what perhaps you didn't understand when you went into your loop the last time, in terms of what exactly they're looking for when it comes to how people do things in the context of leadership principles. So even though you haven't passed this time, don't walk away. Come and get our freebie, because hopefully you'll be able to apply again in the future. Right. So before
Excellent.
we move on to the next one, Yevgeny, we are now at the half hour. So should we take our little commercial break?
Yes, let's do
Yeah.
that.
Cool. So, folks, we have a request for you. So you can clearly see we put a massive amount of effort into this YouTube channel, into the blog that we have on our website, into all of these lives. We've been working on a TikTok channel, which, if any of you are on TikTok, please go to TikTok and follow us on TikTok. It's really hard to grow the TikTok audience because TikTok just doesn't really understand the type of content that
No,
I
I
post
I
there.
I know why, Gigi. They're all watching the Hawk Tour girl. So do not watch the
They
Hawk Tour girl. She will not help you get a job at
No,
Amazon. Watch
definitely
your own
not.
careers.
Definitely not. But there's some awesome content on TikTok from moi. There's wigs involved. It's great fun. So please go. Honestly, if you any of you watch TikTok, I'm obsessed with TikTok. Please go find our channel and just follow our channel, because it will just obviously help a little bit. But we put a ton of effort into this, and in return, we have a very, very small favor to ask you, which is, whenever you watch a piece of content from us, please do give it a like, give it a thumbs up. By doing so, what you're doing is you're telling YouTube that it is good content and that they are brilliant geniuses and they have served that content to the right type of person. If you give those engagement signals, what YouTube will do is then continue to prioritize day one careers content above some of the absolute crud that is out there, about Amazon interviews, which, trust me, there's so much bad stuff out there. So pay it forward for everyone else who's out there looking for Amazon interview content. Like our videos, and then other people will get to see this great content as well. So with that said, we're just going to do a little bit of a commercial break. And in that commercial break, it's not like 30 seconds, please do give this video a little, this stream, a thumbs up, just so that you know I can actually see on my other screen here how many likes this stream has. So I will know if you haven't liked it. I'm obviously confident that I'm guaranteed at least one like, because my mom is here. And mom, you better like it. But hopefully everyone else, you can follow my mom and give this a little bit of a like. So I'm going to just pick that little video for you. Now, this is my mom's favorite, so I'm going to play this one. it took a while. If I didn't even notice it, my mum noticed that the people in the dresses were actually men. I failed to realize that, but it amuses me. So here we still have it. So, mum, here goes your favorite. Everyone else, I hope you enjoy it. Might be a little bit loud. So if you have earphones on, folks, you might just want to pull them ever so slightly off your ears. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Please give it a like.
Like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, now like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, like the stream now, like the stream now, like the stream now, like the stream now.
I love that one, I have to say.
That's a
It is.
great one.
It is my
Absolutely amazing.
favorite. We usually lose a few people at that point because they realize that we're completely unhinged, but we seem not to have lost anyone this time. So obviously, you're all equally as unhinged
Yeah,
as we
indeed. Right.
are.
Shall I
Please
pick the next
pick
one?
the next one. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So I think it's a two-parter here from Amit. So let's go. I have cleared my phone interview, and the recruiter said that they would schedule the loop interview in a couple of weeks. They have asked me to be prepared with all stories. Okay. However, despite multiple follow-ups, I'm told it will definitely be scheduled, but already been few more weeks since I also see the role getting reposted multiple times. Anything to worry about? Um, I don't know whether I can advise you whether to worry about it or not to worry about it, because and I'll tell you why. First of all, there's not a huge amount that you can do other than politely following up with your recruiter ever so often. So if they promised you to schedule the loop and they haven't, I personally would trust that they still intend to do so. If they don't intend to do so, they would have told you already. So I would follow up with them every 3 or 4 days. Just be very polite and say, hey, just conscious that last time we chatted, or last time we exchanged emails, I was a loop was going to be scheduled. Just wanted to make sure this is still going ahead, as I need to, I don't know, as I need to adjust my diary or whatever. Just pick something that's very, very benign, and keep following up with them until you get an understanding on what's happening. It is possible that there's some eventuality that for some reason that they decided not to go ahead with this loop. I think it's very unlikely, but the only way to find out is to keep following up with that recruiter. And to be honest, I don't particularly know if there's anything else that you can do at this point. Gigi, anything, any other bright ideas?
No, I think that's all you can do is just keep following up. Nothing else, I'm afraid. But so many weird things go on behind the scenes. You could drive yourself crazy thinking about all of the reasons why it's taking a long time to schedule and why the job spec is still going up and being revised and being reposted. Don't worry about it. Just keep chasing. That's all you can do. Okay, where are we now?
I think Amanpreet is
Amanpreet.
yours.
There we go. Oh, it's a lovely picture. Okay. I'm not able to add data points to all of my answers. Is it really necessary to have data points considered while prepping your responses? Okay, so a couple of points here, I guess. What you're trying to demonstrate is your impact on your employer. And that's really why Amazon talks rather generally about adding data points to your stories, because it's usually data points that help indicate the scale of the impact that you have had on your business. Now that said, in some stories, it feels difficult slash somewhat indirect to add data points. So maybe if it's an earned trust story and you're trying to rebuild a relationship with someone, the actual outcome is rebuilding the relationship. There doesn't seem to really be any data point associated with that. But perhaps you might be able to consider that there are data point outcomes that have come as a result of rebuilding a relationship. So it might be that you were trying to deliver a project, let's say, and you had a really fractious relationship with someone else in the team, and you had to work really hard to build that relationship, understand where they're coming from, come up with compromises, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, you were able to build a really strong working relationship. Okay, what data point could we add to this? Well, you could potentially add to it a data point that said, as a result of building that really strong working relationship, we were able to deliver the project on time and with 20% less budget than we were expecting. Obviously, I made that up, but that's potentially a way of incorporating data points into a story that, at least on its foundation, doesn't appear to be about data points. The other thing that you can do that we talk about with candidates quite often is this idea of borrowing data points. So an example might be if you are, let's say, a lawyer and you are working on a contract for the sales organization, and there are all sorts of problems with getting this contract through. You work really hard, you break down barriers, you find creative solutions, blah, 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 and you're able to find the right wording, and you give that contract over to sales. Now, that would appear to be the end of the story, but no metrics. How can you build metrics into that? Well, you can borrow the salespeople's metrics, because what you could say is, as a result of my being able to create this contract and get everyone aligned on the right contract and the right wording, the sales team were able to go away and close a $2 million deal. So although those metrics aren't necessarily exactly your metrics, there's no doubt that had you not achieved the alignment on the contract, the salespeople would not be able to have delivered those metrics. And therefore, you can take some of the glory associated with those metrics for yourself. Anything to add, Yevgeny?
No, I've been just thinking. I think that you've covered everything in quite a bit of detail. Okay, so here's this next question. I had my final loop, and I wanted to know what's the process of decision amongst the interviewers. Who has more weight? The hiring manager has the last word. Okay, so the process is the whoever's coordinating the process needs to schedule a debrief, and the debrief needs to happen live, and which means that all of your interviewers need to come together, and the bar raiser will lead that debrief and will ask folks to discuss your interview performance and share what their vote is. And the vote is either to bring you along or to not bring you along, with some grades in between them. If everyone's opinion is the same, then these debriefs tend to go quite quickly if there are no disagreements. If there are some disagreements, then there is a debate, and that is the beauty of the process, because during the debate, notes are shared and studied, so everyone can read each other's notes and people can change their mind. And that's great. And that's why, again, because of that, I think we will sound like broken records, but we're always saying that do not save your best stories for the bar raiser. Make sure a consistent interview performance. Because why? Because during the debrief, all of everyone's feedback will be piled into one pile, and if there are any disagreements, then folks will dive into each other's notes, and all of your stories that you've shared with everyone will be resurfaced. Now, to your question about who has more weight and who has the last word, it depends for what outcome. So for the outcome of bringing someone in, as in hiring someone, the two people that must agree on this would have to be the hiring manager and the bar raiser. For someone to not be hired, as in to not bring the candidate in, it's literally down to the hiring manager. So even if everyone in the debrief says, "Yep, let's bring this person in," but the hiring manager disagrees, they don't have to do it. So that's pretty much it. Anything you'd add, Gigi?
No, other than I just put some TikTok videos up about this. So
How insane.
how crazy is that? So if guys are interested in a little TikTok video about it, I've just put it in the comments. And then can you do that actually? Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can put
Yeah,
links
you
in the
can you
comments.
can
There
you
we
can
go.
put a link in.
Right, there we go. There's a link in the comments to my TikTok video, which I'm super proud of. Right, let's move on then. Let's just pick this one up from Schwix. I'm never going to get over saying that name, am I? Okay. Question 2. I navigated through a lot of questions, but sometimes I struggle to link the question with the required LP. It might refer to more than one LP. So I decide? Is there another part to this? No, there's a question 3. Okay, so I think, okay, let me slightly rephrase this for you, Schwix. I think your point is that sometimes you can't tell exactly what leadership principle the question is looking for, and you think it might refer to multiple LPs. Let's be clear, that doesn't happen, right? Each question that an Amazon interviewer asks you is specifically intended to refer to a specific LP. You might think it can cross multiples, but they're not thinking that. They're looking for a specific LP. But that said, the point is, if you've done your preparation correctly, if you have understood the leadership principles, maybe taken one of our courses, if you've really understood the leadership principles, if you've understood the different facets of those leadership principles and come up with stories that touch one or two of those individual facets, because the facets, the angles of the leadership principles, are actually what drives the questions that the interviewers are going to ask you. If you've understood those facets and built stories around those facets, then it doesn't matter what question the interviewer asks you, you will already have a story in your kind of Rolodex of a mind that fits that question. So when you come to the actual interview, all you have to do is answer the question, which I know sounds like a massive simplification, but it is. What you don't want to be doing is racking your brains about, oh, what leadership principle are they looking for? And what's my leadership principle story for that particular leadership principle? You need to have done all of that work already before you're even in the interview. And therefore, once you get into the interview, it's simply a case of, oh, okay, Gigi would like to know, can I tell her about a time where a customer wanted one thing and I felt they needed something different? Yeah, I've got a story ready for that. I've got a story about customers wanting something and I had to coach them and talk them into buying something different. I'll just tell her that story. And as long as you're focusing on answering that question, telling me about when you had to convince a customer to do something they hadn't intended to do, then you'll be talking about the leadership principle. You might not realize you are, but you will be. So the heart of it really boils down to do your prep properly. Take our free course, which will help you understand what I mean by that. But when you actually get to the interview, focus on answering the question. Okie dokie.
Cool.
Yevgeny, do you want to take the next one?
Yes. Okay, so this question is, for the disagree, have backbone, and commit situation, is it a red flag if I provide a story where I disagreed with my manager? So, no, that's actually one of those things that the type of situation that Amazon could be quite interested to learn about when you did disagree with someone that has authority, or maybe you were in some sort of a meeting and you were the only one who disagreed with the team lead or something like that. So the basic premise is actually pretty spot on. Just make sure that when you do tell the story, you disagreeing with your manager isn't because you're the type of person that just likes to disagree with managers. You need to show that you disagreed with your manager because of something that doesn't have to do with you. It has to do with the business, has to do with the decision that's being made, it has to do with the customers. As in, not just because it was an ego thing, right? It was something that you felt passionate about, because either customers, employees, or the business would suffer from something that your manager was about to decide on. And then that hopefully will make a great story. Anything you'd add, Gigi?
No, to your point, bring data. If you're going to disagree, make sure that you demonstrate the fact that you disagreed with data, with facts. That's one of the most important things in doing well in a have backbone, disagree, and commit story. Okie dokie. Gonna do this one. I think this is just Luis saying thank you. So you've got your interview in 2 hours for a senior TPM. Fingers crossed.
Hope
Positive
you smash it.
mojo. Positive mojo. Positive mojo. Okay, and I'm back to Schwicks. I tell you, there's something weird about the way the count on this one. Okay, as much as I practice, I feel I'm not ready, so I don't want to do more than needed and break things apart. So when it's time to stop. I'm sorry, Schwicks, I don't understand if this is a question. I'm going to read it again. As much as I practice, I feel I'm not ready. Okay, so I don't want to do more than needed and break things apart. So when it's time, so when is it? Right, okay, now I understand. So I think the point that you're saying is that it doesn't matter how much you do, you're somewhat freaking yourself out because you feel you're just not ready. And you're asking me, at what point do I stop doing more work because I'm freaking myself and it's a point of diminishing returns? That's what I've understood from your question. So the answer is there's no answer to that. That's a how long is a piece of string question. Different people are going to feel differently about when the time is to stop. Some people will keep going right up until the 5 minutes before the interview. Other people will stop days before the interview. So I'm sorry, Schwicks, I have no answer for you because actually you are the only person that can make that decision. Sorry.
Cool.
Yevgeny, I'm going to pick the next one.
Yeah. So the next one is, are all roles with senior in the title considered an L6? There are plenty of roles at Amazon that don't have a senior in their title that would be L6, but they're in very niche job families. For the most part, the way it works is if the role goes senior, then function, like marketing, sales, whatever, then manager, then that would be an L6. If it goes senior manager and then function, then it would typically be an L7. Am I right, Gigi?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right. Right. So just so that last descendant doesn't think that we're ignoring them, but this is going to be one of those answers that we set up at the beginning of the session. So you have an interview coming in less than 15 to 16 hours for a cloud engineer. I am okay in what I do, but should I be focused on? I mean, apart from the Amazon please. That's like my spelling, Yevgeny. When I send Yevgeny and I talk over Telegram, and my spelling is so bad, like numbers in the place of letters in the wrong way. It's a good thing that Yevgeny's Russian and probably doesn't realize how bad my spelling is.
I think your spelling is perfect.
Right. So I'm sorry, the last descendant. This is a functional question that we just can't answer for you. We aren't experts in cloud engineering, so can't really specify exactly what you should be prepared for when it comes to your cloud engineering role. Really, if you're going into first interview, I'm not quite sure which one you're going into. Be prepared for tell me about yourself, why Amazon. Be prepared for the awful question of walk me through your resume, which I hate so much and really should not be done, but seems to be doing. Be prepared for those. Obviously, be prepared for those leadership principle questions. And then I guess there's some level of expectation that you should face some functional questioning in the cloud engineering space, but you've said you feel pretty comfortable about that. So really on top of that, I'd be saying leadership principles and then those introductory questions. And then finally, I guess, have some questions of your own to ask the interviewer at the end of the interview. Exactly what questions you ask is not meant to be used for assessing whether they want to hire you or not. Some teams do. I've got some feedback from someone in India once telling me that they do actually consider it. It's not policy. Obviously, there's what people are supposed to do and what people actually do, but broadly speaking, it's policy that they shouldn't take your questions into account. But if you don't ask any questions, they obviously take that into account, because how could you possibly not have any questions about moving into a new company, new role, new team, blah, blah, blah? If you don't have any questions at all, then everyone's thinking, has this person really thought about this job if they haven't got any questions for us at all? So that would be the last thing I would say, be prepared for.
Yep.
Right. You want to
Cool.
pick the next one, Yevgeny?
Yeah. Okay, so do you advise to negotiate any offer? Yes, always negotiate. I'll pick the next one.
I was going to say that'll be a quick one.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so here's a question. Does it matter if you talk about school projects or work experience more for an L4 role? What are the standards in terms of complexity and scope? So in terms of the standards for complexity and scope, the standards are quite dynamic. They move, and and the way that the standards is determined is yes, there are some broad guidelines in terms of what those standards should be in terms of complexity and scope, but really what it boils down to is what Amazon calls the bar, and which is the other L4 folks who share the same, obviously same level, same job function. Actually, Gigi, correct me if I'm wrong. So when the bar raisers look at the bar, do they surely do they just look at the level or the level and the job family intersection?
It's the same or similar job
Same or similar?
families.
Yeah,
Same or similar. So you might consider a marketing manager and a program manager to be similar types of roles. So
similar
it's,
roles. There
yeah,
you go.
the exact
So
or
coming
similar.
so yeah so coming back to that, so this is where the bar is coming from, right? So the bar raiser, and actually not just the bar raiser, everyone in that interview are meant to be thinking. So if we think about the L4s that I, as an interviewer, the L4s that I know who are doing the same job or similar jobs, does what this candidate bring to the table, is that better? Is that better? Are the problems that this candidate is solving more complex than most of, or at least half, at least 50% of those L4s that I know? Is this candidate solving complex that are more complex? Does this candidate come with the career experience that demonstrates that at their level right now, their scope is bigger, more diverse than at least half of those L4s? Now, it's I guess it's a very intuitive bar, and that's why you have more than one person interviewing you. But that's where the bar is coming from. The bar is coming fundamentally from those folks who are already doing the job that is the same or similar to the one that you are applying to. And now, coming back to school projects, is it okay to talk about school projects or work experience more for an L4 role? So from my experience recruiting L4s, it's perfectly fine to talk about your school projects, um, the, as long as you mix it together with work experience. If you do have work experience, so say if you're a recent grad and you have I don't know 2-3 years of work experience and you're applying for an L4 role, mix the two. Because obviously, it would be strange if you're only talking about the uni projects, because the question is, well, what have you been doing in your professional experience, and vice versa. If you only focus on the last 2 or 3 years of your work experience, especially considering the fact that you might have to produce more stories than a more senior person, because your story is going to be less complex, they're going to go quicker. So I think it's perfectly fine to mix them. Just the only tip that I have for your uni projects: focus on situations where it wasn't just solo stuff, you versus a textbook, right? Try to focus on extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities, leaderships, societies, anything that demonstrates how you can bring about tangible impact to an entity, being a group of people that's other than yourself. That would be my tip. Do you have any tips for folks who are just starting out their careers?
Um, no, not beyond that which you've said. It's focus on your professional if you can, and if you can't, you got to use school and make sure that there is a group kind of output. Yeah, nothing to add.
Cool.
Okay, so this is interesting actually, because we have Fikre the King, who is doing an interview for an L3, and they are having a loop. So we were saying earlier that we didn't think L3s get loops, but this person obviously is. So that's interesting. Can I use other stories that happened in other site critical infrastructure rather than limited to data canters? All right, so there's a bit of assumptions in there about what I actually know about what you're interviewing for. So, based on what you've said there, I'm assuming that you are interviewing for a data center role. So your question is, can you talk about other site infrastructure that isn't data center? Yeah. So they're essentially looking to understand the leadership principles. So if you have stories that refer to the other leadership principles that aren't related to data centers, that's fine. That said, there is always going to be a balance. If you are applying for a role in data centers, um, having knowledge and experience of data centers might well be an important part of their hiring criteria. And you'll obviously see that on the basic requirements or the preferred requirements of the job description. So, our suggestion is always to try and balance between stories that showcase strength in the leadership principles that you're trying to articulate with stories that reflect the functional nature of the role that you're applying for. I cannot tell you what the perfect balance is. There is no perfect balance. It's going to depend on the point of view of the hiring manager for that particular role. But that's the advice. If you can do data center references, then do them. If you can't, then lean into other leadership principles from other contextual stories.
Cool. Shall we talk about the freebies?
Oh gosh, is it that time already? Yes, let's talk about the freebies. Wow, we missed a whole bunch of questions, so hopefully folks can come back next week. So let's.
Or they can come and join our community, which is one of the freebies, and ask those questions there as
Yes,
well.
there is. Okay, so folks, have I got it right? Yes. Okay, so follow that link there. Okay, day1.careers free stuff. At the end of that link, there are, I think, 3 key pieces of amazing free stuff that you are definitely not going to want to miss. So do not hang up, right? First one is there is a sample taster course there of our amazing Amazon interview success system. In the system, we have incredible AI tools that you can use to help craft your stories. In the system, there is an amazing tool that will actually provide you feedback on your stories. We've built a custom AI ChatGPT model based on all of our knowledge, etc. That doesn't come free with the course, but you'll be able to have a look at it. But it's a little taster of that course, specifically focused on customer obsession. So it deconstructs all of the different facets of customer obsession, of which there are 4. It talks you through what the interviewer is looking for in your answers about customer obsession. And I think there's a little mock interview there. I think that's still there. I can't remember if we took it out or left it in, of me interviewing me. So that's a little taster of customer obsession. Everyone will get tested on customer obsession at some point if you make it all the way through to loop. So you really should take that. If you take that course, it gives you access to our incredible Heartbeat community. The community, we've got well over, I think, 3,500 people who are a part of that community at the moment. And you can reach out to each other and buddy up and get mock interviews. The other amazing thing about that community is there is also a little place where you can ask a different ChatGPT model that we have built and trained on the YouTube channel. Any question that you maybe didn't get a chance to ask us today, we've pumped all of that YouTube information into our model, which we have called Andy. And you can ask Andy a question, and Andy will attempt to give you an answer. Pretty much anything that you can think of that you would have spent hours trawling through the YouTube channel for, Andy can give you the answer to. The third thing that channel will then give you is, do we have the tool pack in there? I think we do, don't we?
Yes, we do. Yes, we
Cool.
do.
So the Amazon interview preparation tool pack is also another freebie that we give you there. That's basically a giant list of what we call plausible Amazon interview questions. They're not the exact Amazon interview questions because that would be a breach of our contract, so we do not hand those out. But we've created, based on our expertise and our knowledge of the leadership principles, a whole bunch of questions that are very plausible that you could be asked at your interview, and you can just use those for practice. So if you remember earlier on in the session, I was talking about making sure that you actually answer the question. You can basically work your way through that whole list, look at those questions and ask yourself, if I was asked this in interview, which of my stories would I use and how would I shape that story to make sure that I'm actually answering the question? So super, super helpful for preparation and practice. I think that's it. So, folks, thank you very much for joining us today. Sorry for those of you who we didn't get through in terms of your questions, but literally, I would say join the community and just ask that question of Andy, our chatbot, and hopefully he can give you the answer that you're looking for. For those of you with interviews in the next couple of hours, couple of days, fingers crossed, positive, positive, positive mojo. And hopefully, if you don't have your interview this week, you'll join us again next week and we can answer all of your questions then. Be safe, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.